How's it going, YouTube? Oxy here, and welcome back. As you can see, here I have a bunch of games. And yeah, today's video is going to be all about my entire horror game collection. And that includes, themed games as well. Like, they aren't horror, but they're, like, themed, right? They have the tropes and stuff like that. But yeah, so... hope you enjoy. Got 52 games in total, 14 themes, so non-horror, and then 48 or 49, which we'll get into, individual games, and yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, 52 total, and yeah, can't wait to show you them all, and be sure to stay to the end to see what I got, and hey, let me know what you think. But without further ado, let's check them out. Alright guys, so here we have them all, again 52 in total, and yeah, we're gonna start with the themed games, so I'll get these out the way. And yeah, again, these are not horror games per se, they're just, horror themed or in the Halloween spirit. So starting off, as you probably noticed by the thumbnail, got some N64 games. I'm going to go through everything quick because obviously it's a lot, and this will be like an hour-long video. Doom 64. Again, this is the original Doom 3, and it took a more horror approach. Of course, the creature designs are much more scarier, so yeah. Castlevania, what can, obviously the OG in terms of, like, games that had any kind of horror. And then moving along, got Castlevania Curse of Darkness, the second ever 3D Castlevania game, this being the first. And yeah, again, not necessarily horror, but obviously being Castlevania, it's got all your vampires, ghouls, you get the idea. Then we got Alan Wake, of course. This is, as it says, psychological action thriller, not necessarily horror, but I think most would agree that it does play with it a bit, the whole, like, light, dark, how you're fending off the darkness, like, it's, horror-ish. Dead Rising, what is there to say? Again, this is more like hack and slash, but zombies, George Romero, and then it's clearly inspired. And then just like this game, funny game, honestly, Lollipop Chainsaw, the San Romero Knights. And yeah, another game where you're facing the undead, not horror, but honestly I recommend. Pretty funny game, Grasshopper, made great games. I don't have it, but Shadows of the Damned, another good one that would fit this, category. Dino Crisis 3, again, original Xbox exclusive. The first Dino Crisis was essentially Resident Evil Dinosaur Edition, also made by Capcom. Second one took it a more action approach, and the third one kind of followed, the formula of the second one, and yeah, but I include it because its roots are survival horror. Dark Watch, great game, of this generation, PS2 or Xbox. Again, another Capcom banger. And yeah, you play as like a hunter, and you face the undead, skeletons, all sorts of things. Pretty great game, 4-player co-op. Yeah, obviously fits the theme, as you can see, got that edgelord 2000s look. But yeah, great game. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. Again, it's like a team-based game, but it's Resident Evil, so again, had to include it. Sinking City. This is more like a detective, that type of game, like open world, but I include it because if you're, familiar with the story or the source material, Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft, the father of cosmic horror, great. I recommend his books, and yeah, although this isn't directly horror, it's inspired, so great game too, underrated. As you can see, I did pay, $9 for it, so not bad, I recommend. And then we got The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge. Surprisingly, this game has gone up in value pretty significantly. Of course, I include it being that it's, Jack Skellington. And yeah, another Capcom banger. And the cool thing about this, so essentially, this is basically Devil May Cry with a Nightmare Before Christmas, like, look. Like, it plays like a DMC game, and yeah, pretty underrated. Again, it's going up in value. I got this for like $2. It was part of a lot. I remember because the controller in the slot was cracked, so, and I still have it, a Duke. And it came in a DVD case, but as you can see, I have it in the NFL case. But yeah, underrated game. You know, if you could find it for cheap, highly recommend. Stubbs the Zombie. I include it because you play as a zombie. Now, this is on the pricier side. This alone could run you like anywhere. I got my copy complete for like $60, but that was with the bid, so you know I got lucky. Yeah, I mean this could run you close to $100. At least some game stores try to sell it for that. But it is gonna be re-released on all major platforms, or it might have already been. At least from when I checked, it says October 26th. You know, so in a couple days, it'll be on like all major systems. You know, even the Switch. But yeah, funny game. You know, pretty good. And, you know, I'd say pick it up. Can't, you know, have to bring up Splatterhouse. Underrated is, you know, it's an understatement. Great game. Absolutely love it. It's a hack and slash. But of all games here, this is probably the, you know, epitome of like horror theme. It's got references to like all like, you know, movies, that sort of thing. Includes the original games. Seriously, recommend. And of course, if you're a viewer of the channel, I've told the story many times that I bought this sealed, which of course you can see it's not, you know. And yeah, I got it for $35, which sealed was a steal. But the seller, shout out to him, great guy, honestly. It was ripped in like a little, like back here, like it was barely noticeable, but he gave me a full refund. So I only, like, essentially I only paid shipping, $2. So yeah, Splatterhouse sealed, I got it for $2. Ended up opening it because, you know, it was like at that point, why not? But yeah, and finally, Alice Madness Returns. Just like Splatterhouse, great game. Some might put this in horror because it's like psychological, but great. It includes the first game, and as I've said before, this code, surprisingly, gotta give EA props. It's like, doesn't really matter because you put the disc in, you can download it in the DLC, you get the first game, you know. But yeah, great game. It's a platformer, you know, Alice in Wonderland, made by American McGee. But it's, you know, not the Disney version. It's pretty messed up. You know, explores Alice's, like, how her family died and that sort of thing. But yeah, so those were all the themed games. I mean, hey, got some good stuff in there. But, of course, we're all here to see proper horror, right? So, let's get into them. First up, we got Resident Evil 2. This is my... I won't say childhood because I got it in my teens, early teens, but this is my original copy that I played. Honestly, fantastic game. Absolutely love it. Can't recommend it enough. Truly a masterpiece. My first probably major introduction into gaming horror, and still holds up. One of the all-time greats. Then we got Evil Within 1 and 2. Of course, Tango Gameworks. Shinji Mikami. You know, if you don't know who that is, he's essentially the father of survival horror. You know, worked on many of these. And yeah, established his own studio owned by Bethesda, which, if you should know, Xbox owns. So yeah, they own Tango Gameworks. So imagine the potential future games that, I mean, hey, they're going to be Xbox exclusive. So can't wait. But yeah. Got both of them. Haven't tried them out yet, but heard great things about the first one. Second one's a little more mixed. Takes a different approach, more open world, but I'll give him a shot. And again, it's the father of survival horror himself, so, you know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Moving along. Got all the Resident Evils here. Got 5, Revelations, 7, and RE2 Remake. And boom, look at there. How time flies. Now, admittedly, I haven't played these. This, I heard, is pretty good. Of course, it's like a side. 5, you could argue, is more action, but I still include it because it does have its, zombies, its horror tropes. Even though, of course, after 4 and before 7, Resident Evil was all about, like, the action. 7 brought it back to its roots. And this copy in particular was sealed. And I got it at a local, like, thrift store for, like, $2. And it was marked. It was marked for, like, 10, like, $9.99. And I was like, hey, still, for a sealed copy, that's worth it. Lady at checkout was like, oh, like, she just scanned it as a regular, like, DVD, $2. And, of course, RE2, the remake, are arguably, the industry standard of what a remake is. Again, not a remaster, remake from the ground up. And, yeah, whole new experience, whole new camera angle. Very excited. Gonna check it out because, again, compared to the original. But, yeah, there you got Resident Evil. And then just want to give a quick shout out to Little Nightmares. Cannot praise it enough. Love this series. First game I bought on a whim, just like at a Best Buy. Absolutely loved it. They're platformers at heart, but they have their horror tropes. And, yeah, just all around awesome. Tarsier Studios. And, yeah, second game came out, I believe, this year. Yeah, like February. Absolutely loved it. Again, these are shorter games. When they release, they're like $30 a pop. This one, man, like, I played through in one sitting. Took me like 5 or 6 hours. But yeah, absolutely love them. If you're a fan of like Inside or Limbo, these are must. Like, highly recommend. Again, you can probably get both of these now for under $60. Like, the price of a full game. And believe me, money well spent. Cannot recommend enough. And finally here, got, Call of Cthulhu. Compared to Sinking City earlier, this is more survival horror. About like 3/4 of the way through it. I'm enjoying it. I'm a fan of Lovecraft. Great game. We happy few have a sealed copy. Bought it because, as you can see, it was only $6 sealed. And yeah, this is like again, another survival horror Compulsion Games. Also owned by Microsoft, and they haven't. We'll see what they're working on next, because this was their last game, and still don't know. Hopefully they get announced soon. And finally, for the Xbox One games, Alien Isolation. Again, another just phenomenal game. Heard nothing but, good stuff about it. And yeah, very excited to check it out. And honestly, the Xenomorph is said to be truly terrifying. Like, the AI will learn your patterns and like adapt. So honestly, that sounds awesome. So gonna give it a shot. Now moving along to our 360 stuff. These will go a little quicker and you'll see why. I mean, if we're talking horror and shooters, can't go wrong with Fear. As you can see, got the complete series right here. Great games. Of course, you got 1. Fear Files, which was originally expansions, I believe, for the first game. Could be wrong, could be the second on PC, but it, on consoles released as its own thing. Then you have Fear 2 and Fear 3. But yeah, great games. Surprisingly not backwards compatible. Phil Spencer, Microsoft, y'all need to get on that. But yeah, great games. I mean, great series, and one I'd recommend you check out. And just like Fear, another staple of modern horror, Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. I mean, what is there to say? The remake is coming out soon for this. Gonna get it. And yeah, I mean, just great. I mean, visceral. They really knew what they were doing. Now, admittedly, Dead Space 3 was like is the black sheep. This one took it in a way different approach, and this was when EA really started their whole microtransaction stuff. But yeah, it's a great trilogy overall. Of course, I mean, hey, I'd highly recommend 1 and 2 over 3, but yeah. And then we got just some more randoms. You know, got Clive Barker's Jericho, made by Codemasters, which if you don't know, they mainly focus on racing games. But interesting game nonetheless. Again, Clive Barker, you know, the director, yes, it's him. And, you know, he helped develop this game, so, you know, we're worth it. Then we got Dead Island. Now, Dead Island, yeah, you might say, oh, Dead Rising, it wasn't horror, so why this one? I mean, admittedly, these take it a bit more, because, you know, in Dead Rising, all you do is, like, just kill hordes, and it's pretty comical. This, I would say, tries to be a little more serious, so, you know, and I'll... I mean, hey, at the end of the day, it's my list, right? So, I'll put in horror. Got Left 4 Dead, same thing. You know, this is mainly, like, 4-player, like, action, but it's zombies, and, you know, I mean, it's Valve. What can I say? It's like, I'm pretty sure back then, like, we were all kind of scared of this game. Great series, still need to get 2. I mean, if you haven't played it, what are you doing with your life? Great game, you know, definitely check it out. Then finally, we got Alone in the Dark and Condemned. Need to get Condemned too. These are survival horrors, but they focus on melee, so you could say it's obviously more up close and personal. And then Alone in the Dark is a remake, you know. For those that don't know, the original game, man, this is an old game. Like, it predates Resident Evil, so it's one of the earliest examples of survival horror. And yeah, I mean, this is a remake. I heard it's not that great, but I got it for cheap, so I'll give it a shot. And finally, of course, me being Xbox, you know, I'm not gonna deny that I preferred the original. And yeah. And here, now you're gonna see why I meant about when I said it's like 48 or 49 individual games. And you'll see here. So, here, got my entire Doom 3 collection. Doom is my all-time favorite video game franchise. Again, franchise. Favorite game, you know, that's a different story. But Doom 3 very much is survival horror. And again, for those of you that didn't know, yes, it did release on the original Xbox exclusively, because no other console at the time could handle it. Of course, back then, Doom 3 on PC was like groundbreaking, like graphics-wise. It was like, you know, it still holds up, honestly, lighting and everything. Black sheep of the series, you know, considering it took it away from the action. And this is the expansion, which again, you could argue, is it a different game? Because on PC, you know, and later in consoles, you got BFG edition, which includes both of these. And something you don't see every day is the collector's edition, which admittedly mine is kind of, I bought it like rusted. You know, that's on me, you know, starting out collecting. But yeah, cool to see. This is the exact same as this. Like, literally, this is just the collector's edition. But yeah. And if this isn't, this is proof right here that, you know, Doom and all the Bethesda stuff, exclusive. Again, original Xbox, Doom was exclusive. So don't come here with the, oh, it's still coming to PlayStation. No, no, no. And, you know, one of the all-time greats, Silent Hill. I mean, what can you say? You know, goated. I'd argue, if not the greatest, it's like top 3 easily. Horror franchises. Here we got 2 and 4. 2 being Restless Dreams, which again, it's got, you know, Xbox exclusive content. But, well, here, it came out first on Xbox. This version later did come to PS2. Screwed over the people that bought, like, base Silent Hill 2 and 4. You know, the last developed by Team Silent, the original developer, before they were split up. And then, yeah, arguably the last great Silent Hill game, which some will say this one, you know, kind of is, like, not as good, but I think it's great. Truly masterpieces, you know, can't recommend them enough. Here we got The Suffering 1 and 2, The Ties That Bind. These are survival horror first-person shooters. Pretty interesting. You play as like a prisoner, and of course all hell breaks loose, literally. And yeah, you know, pretty cool games. I got them both, you know, for the low. Pretty good. And yeah, this is a whole series made by Midway. Man, it sucks to see them go. They made so many great games. And yeah, I mean, to give you comparison, these are similar to like Resident Evil in the sense of like the shooting aspect, and yeah, underrated games that not many people may know, and I'd recommend them. Great stuff. And you know, if not Silent Hill, I'd say Fatal Frame is up there as the greatest horror franchise. Here we have the director's cut, truly complete, and yeah, you know, Fatal Frame 1 and 2 did come out on Xbox, well, and PlayStation, but 2 is you know, Xbox has a director's cut, so, you know, this is the pricier version because it's more complete, you know, brings exclusive, like, ending and that sort of thing, too. So this is a definitive version, and yeah, truly, one of the greatest of all time. If you got the cash to spend, this will cost you a good, you know, Benjamin. It's up there, and it's only going to go up more, so, you know, better get on it. Manhunt. What is there to say? One of the most controversial games of all time. And some of you might be like, it's not necessarily horror, it's more stealth. But truly, if you've never played it, this isn't for the faint of heart. This, man. Just, of course, brief overview. Man, you play as a serial killer, you know, who gets busted out. And you're essentially hired to carry out, like, snuff films. And if you don't know what that means, essentially murder films where, you know, the people actually die on camera. And yeah, pretty messed up. I mean, spoiler alert for like what, over close to 20-year-old game. Final boss is Pigsy, who's a mentally challenged, you know, killer who wears a pig mask and is naked. So yeah, isn't for the faint of heart. Pretty messed up game. And look, hot take, if they announced the Manhunt collection, you know, remaster similar to GTA, right, with the trilogy coming, like Manhunt 1 and 2, I'd take this over GTA 6. Again, this was when Rockstar really didn't give a fuck. And yeah, I'd love to see them return, you know. And here we got Curse of Isis. Always get that messed up. Just, you know, Resident Evil clone. Not much to say here. It's a pricier one, you know. Game has some value, but I got it because I'm a sucker for horror. And, you know, moving down to our final couple games. Got Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth, Cold Fear, and RLH, Hunter Be Hunted, which stands for Run Like Hell. And yeah, pretty cool stuff. Of course, the Xbox version has some exclusive, well, had exclusive downloadable content, but it does have like exclusive levels and monsters. So again, I bought it on a whim, didn't know much about it. I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's a horror game? Give it a shot. It was under $10. Cold Fear. Again, a lot, you know, with horror now, all of them are like Resident Evil inspired. This one is unique because it takes place on a boat, you know, Ubisoft published. And yeah, great game. I love the physics of it where the boat will, like, just like a real boat, you know, it rocks and like your character can slide, and you know, it adds to the immersion, and it's a pretty cool game. Recommend. Is going up in price, but you could probably get it for under $50. And finally, Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth, Bethesda published. And yeah, Lovecraft, but this is a horror game. And I mean, it plays with the theme, but you know, it is a pretty cool game. It's buggy, yes, it's not perfect, but it's a cool game, and for any Xbox collector, it's exclusive, so, you know, I'd recommend it. And man, whew, that was a lot of them, but let's get to the end recap, and yeah. And there you have it, guys. That's my entire horror game collection. Let me know what you thought. I mean, you know, there it is for you. If you stuck around this long, thank you. Shout outs to you. Appreciate it. And yeah, how does it compare to your horror game collection? And if anything, what I wanted this video is just, you know, to spread awareness. Of course, there's a lot of great horror games out there. It's not only Resident Evil and Silent Hill. You know, there's many others. And yeah, that's my goal, or what I wanted to get across, is that hopefully you could take away some games you never heard of, and hey, if they seem interesting, check them out. But yeah, that was all of them. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through the one by one thing, too many. But as always, thank you for watching. I make new videos every Tuesdays and Saturdays. As always, I've been your host, Oxy. Take care.